Hey everybody, welcome again to another episode of Turndown Friday. What you talking about tonight?
Tonight we're talking all about kids. How many kids you should have as a parent for your household and for your best life possible. So this is what we're arguing about tonight. Happy Friday, TGIF. So we were reading in a journal, a scientific journal or a social science journal, that the perfect number of children to have as parents is 2. And they used some information just like about how having more or less can have detrimental effects on your health. But that got us kind of to talking about our experiences in our households growing up, and what we thought was the best option. Obviously, as millennials, we're dealing with record low birth rates, so long gone are the days of having 8, 9 kids. Unless I know some people in the hood got 8, 9 kids. Trust and believe. You got some at 25 and with a 2-year-old sister. That crazy stuff like that. But what was your experience growing up? Like, how many siblings do you have? And how did that go for you, and how do you see it now as an adult?
So technically I have 4 siblings, but my oldest sibling is a half sibling, and she was not raised in our home. So for the most part, growing up, I was raised with 3 other children. I am the second child by birth order, including my stepsister, who is the eldest of us all. I would be the 3rd child, which would place me exactly in the middle of the lineup. So older sister, older brother, me, younger brother, younger sister. Real life, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl. I want to say, I feel like my parents had us, I'm speaking just about the 4 of us that were actually raised together in the home. They had my brother and I together, and we are 3 years apart. And then they had my younger sister and younger brother about together, and they were a year apart. So I feel like when you have kids in sets, it works out as far as like social issues in the home, kind of trying to figure out who's kind of going to be the boss, who's going to be the problem solver, how conflict's going to go. So I would say it worked out the way it was done. Now, socioeconomically, as far as cost, my parents were poor, so having to raise 4 kids plus a child that wasn't in the home and having to pay child support, that was like a lot financially in our family. But now I would say our relationship is still about the same. I'm actually, oddly enough, the closest to my older sister, who is my half sibling, who wasn't raised with us. So that shows, and then she's actually 6 years older than I am. So she's 6 years older than I am. Then my older brother is 3 years older than I am. Then it's me. And then my young brother is 5 years younger than I am, followed by my younger sister, who's 6 years younger than I am. And so you would think that because my younger sister and I grew up in the same home and we're 6 years apart, just like me and my older sister, that my younger sister and I will have a close relationship. Not to mention, my younger sister moved in with me at some point, and we still never had a really meshed relationship because, again, we kind of grew up in sets. So I hung out with my brother, I hung out with my brother's friends. I love calling myself a tomboy, climbing trees, doing all that stuff. So it was just a different experience for me. What about you?
Well, going back to you, so you think your parents should have quit while they were ahead, just economically speaking?
Economically speaking, I feel like this should have just ended things with me. I mean, I'm the favorite anyway. So this should have just ended right there.
So for me, I'm one of three, all boys, and I'm the oldest. So being the oldest has its own kind of, I guess, special particulars about it. I mean, I think, birth order is important. So you're like a middle child. And so that usually means certain things. I mean, you know more about that as a psychologist, but being the oldest, there's a lot more expectations. So, I have a brother, my middle brother, I guess he's the middle one of the three of us. He's 2 years apart. And so I think we grew up really close. I mean, I don't think we had we had a pretty good relationship. We didn't have a super...
They were the hard-working boys.
That's an inside joke. Y'all wouldn't understand that. But we were a pair. So we grew up together and we kind of had... I think we had a good relationship. We grew up kind of as a team and everything. We understand each other really well. Mm-hmm. And then my parents had a third child, but they waited. So my youngest brother is 6 years younger than me. I mean, they really should have stuck with the two of us. I mean, we had all kind of problems with him. Nah, I'm just playing. I love my little brother. He's the most outgoing of all of us. Mm-hmm. And that's a different conversation. But, I think that as important as the number of kids you have is kind of the space you put between them. I think that with my younger brother being 6 years older than me, I mean, we were always in two completely different points in adolescence and puberty, whatever. So, we were never kind of that close, and we were closer as adults probably than we were as kids, just because socially we were in such different places. Now, me and my second brother, my middle brother, it's almost like we grew up as peers, even though there's a couple years difference, but we kind of ended up with the same friends and things like that. Now, it worked out for us, but carrying it forward, I think that I really subscribe to the idea of even numbers. Because it's important, because like you said, people, siblings tend to pair off with each other. So, what you don't want to have, if obviously 0 kids is a completely viable life to live. You don't let any of your parents, your grandparents make you feel bad for living your best life with no kids. But if you do have a kid, one just seems like a bad idea. I mean, what are the kind of things you've heard about only children?
Well, as an only child, what I've seen is that they tend to be really spoiled. They grow up having an overwhelming sense of self. They just feel like people should cater to them because their parents cater to them in the home, and it's difficult for them to problem solve on their own. They expect answers to just come to them. And again, in an article we read, I don't know if it was the same article or another article, we read about single kids just becoming narcissistic or having narcissistic characteristics because they become very self-centered and self-serving.
Yeah, I mean, I can attest to that. I mean, just from what I've seen in situations, from all the way from being a little kid all the way up into college and in the workplace, seeing how people who are only children, how they operate. Now, I have a child from a prior relationship, and he's already a teenager and he's almost an adult. So if, myself and Wade, we don't have a kid yet. If we choose to go that route, then there'll be one of those big hood age differences. But I think that, for me, I think 2 is a good number. And so back to the journal we were talking about earlier, they said that 2 was like the perfect number. I think 2, because like I said before, people tend to pair off with each other. And I just think that once you get to a certain age, you have that, you learn some life skills just from dealing with a sibling, for one. For 2, as a parent, having 2 kids, you don't always have to entertain that one kid.
That one child,
That who's the extra child, because there's always going to be one that's left out. Unless they're triplets or quadruplets or whatever, there's always going to be somebody who's the odd man out. And then that is going to fall on the parents. So, but as a paired off group, then you have a situation where once you get to a certain age, you'll feel more comfortable leaving the kids home alone because they're kind of together. They're a unit rather than just being one by themselves. They can entertain each other from a young age. You don't gotta entertain them every second of the day. You know, they can get into trouble but that's your fault as a
Get in trouble
parent to a
together.
certain extent. You know, if you got 3-year-olds, you know, sticking people up on the street and all of that, then you've made some serious parenting errors.
You're so ridiculous.
So anyway, I mean, I think that's our take. You got any closing thoughts?
I guess I would say that reading the article, I guess it makes sense. My theory has always been 3 because the 2 will always be in competition to see who's gonna be the best or who's the favorite and Having the odd child just kind of like meshes things a little bit together. So I guess my personal take, I would say 0 or 3.
Oh, that's such a huge
Oh,
leap.
yeah, I know.
Like,
But-
well, I don't have 0. I might as well have 3.
It is a huge leap. It is a huge leap, but definitely one by itself, one child by his or herself
that's
is not a good deal. Like, I hope that for those who are here thinking about having kids, planning on having kids, that you consider timing. Oh my gosh, as millennials, we plan and we like to have all these different options. Please consider your options, yes, but also plan, because birth order, the separation of years, all these things matter. So take these things seriously when planning your family. And that's my closing words.
All right, good game. Let's go eat. So if you like this content, go ahead and subscribe, give us a like. You know, comment below with your opinion on tonight's conversation, how many kids you want to have, how many kids you already have, what's been your experience, what are you hoping to do in the future once you get out of some of that school debt. All right, we'll see y'all next time.